The last thing Commander Threx expected that morning was a pot of boiling stew hurled at his second-in-command's face, and certainly not from a human. "Sir, something's wrong on Deck 9, said Ensign Zilvac, antennae twitching nervously. "The human female has escaped containment." Threx narrowed his eyes, slamming a clawed fist against the control panel. "What human female? The one that came with the infant?" Zilvac blinked. "You said she was sedated." "I said she was small," Threx growled, "and unconscious. At the time." He turned toward the viewport, watching the stars ripple past in hyperspace. Behind him, alarms began to whine. It started with the security feed in Lab 12 cutting out, then the kitchen, then the hydroponics bay, and then, oh gods, Deck 9, where all the weaponized toxins were stored. Meanwhile, somewhere beneath a pile of collapsed ductwork and shattered containment glass, Michelle Alvarez was not having a great day. She'd woken up strapped to a cold metal table surrounded by creatures that looked like rejected seafood, and the first thing she noticed, her son wasn't there. Not beside her. Not anywhere. That was when the screaming started. They tried to sedate her again. Key word, tried. One of them got too close, and Michelle jammed her elbow into its thorax hard enough to make something crack. After that, things escalated. The restraints didn't last long, neither did the guards. Turns out, when you mess with a woman whose baby just got abducted, you unlock something older than civilization. Michelle wasn't a soldier, or an assassin, or even a trained survivalist. She was a baker from Kansas City, but she'd also once lifted a refrigerator off her toddler when it fell over. "Where's my son?" she whispered into the silence of the darkened corridor, dragging a plasma rifle stolen from one of the fallen guards. "Where? Is my son?" Commander Threx watched a squad of 6 elite Reapers, trained for infiltration on Death Worlds, scrambled down the hall toward Deck 9. They didn't make it halfway. A silent scream echoed over the intercom, then another. When the camera feed returned, only one Reaper remained. He was duct-taped to the wall, naked, sobbing. "What is this human?" Threx whispered, horror creeping into his voice. "She's a mother, sir," said Zilvac grimly. "Oh, stars." Michelle tore through the decks like divine vengeance. The ship's interior lights flickered as she moved. She'd taken over the environmental controls, cutting oxygen to lower decks and rerouting it to her path. She didn't mean to kill, just slow them down. But a few did die, mostly by tripping over their own panic. She found a food processing chamber, a few herb-like plants, some kind of protein paste, and a bubbling pot. "Oh, we're cooking now," she muttered. When 2 guards burst in, she didn't flinch. The pot tipped, one screeched as boiling stock hit its face, and the second took a punch that shattered its breathing mask. She stirred the broth with a stolen blade. "One down," she said. On the bridge, Threx had lost 5 more guards, 3 engineers, and a political hostage. The human was heading straight for specimen containment. "She's coming for the child," Zilvac hissed. Threx stood. "Get the shuttle ready. We're leaving." "Shouldn't we?" Threx turned. "She boiled Varkon, Zilvac." "The stew was good," said Zilvac, almost inaudibly. "What?" "I mean, never mind." Michelle found the room. She didn't burst in. She melted the lock with a stolen plasma cutter. Inside was a chamber filled with surgical lights, instruments, specimen jars, and in the center, a containment pod. A baby boy, peacefully sleeping inside. "Jacob," Michelle breathed, and her knees hit the floor. The door behind her slid open with a hiss. She didn't look back. "Leave," she said. A chorus of clicks, 6 guards, plasma rifles humming. Michelle stood slowly, turning to face them, the blade still in her hand. "You really want to try this," she said, voice calm, "because I'm out of recipes, and I've got room for one last dish." The guards looked at each other and ran. By the time Commander Threx made it to the escape shuttle, the stew was waiting for him. He found it simmering, set neatly on a burner at the entrance. A note hung above it. "Next time, ask first. Also, you're drinking this. M." And Michelle? She was already gone, with her child, and a stolen ship. Michelle didn't steal any ship. She stole their best one, a Zircon-class stealth interceptor, one of only 2 in the Corvex fleet with phased light cloaking and 0-point warp drive. It had been parked, foolishly, next to the lab bay where they kept her son, almost like they wanted it taken. The cockpit was weirdly intuitive, or maybe rage made her smarter. "All right, baby," Michelle said, strapping Jacob into a cradle-like seat she'd hastily converted from a weapons rack. "We're getting the hell off this seafood platter." The controls pulsed under her fingers. She flicked a switch, and the ship vanished. Back on the capital station orbiting Veran Primaris, the Galactic Council emergency broadcast pinged again, for the 3rd time that week. "Report," barked High Chancellor Vorex. "The human mother escaped," mumbled an aide. "She's armed. She cooked 3 of them. We believe she's making soup." "Excuse me?" "She, boiled one. The others, she fed them to the survivors." A long silence. "Shouldn't we stop her?" "Oh, absolutely not," said the Kalari ambassador. "If anything, give her a medal. She's a Deathworlder mother. You do not get between a Deathworlder and her child." "Seconded," muttered a Farran diplomat, visibly shaking. "We tried that once during the Tulvani skirmish. Our entire unit got wiped out by a single grandmother with a shovel." Vorex looked up. "I want a full file on human maternal response protocols, now." The aide hesitated. "It's been classified under planetary threat contingencies." "Good," Vorex said, nodding. "We're not suicidal." Michelle had no idea she'd just made half the Galactic Senate wet themselves. She just knew Jacob needed food, and her new ship had an emergency protein printer. Unfortunately, all it made was fish paste. "Close enough," she muttered, spooning a glob into a makeshift bottle. "You'll eat sushi eventually, right?" Jacob, as always, remained unimpressed. Michelle slumped into the pilot's chair and stared at the endless expanse of stars. She didn't want revenge. She wanted assurance. She wanted to know why they'd taken him, why they thought they could just pluck a kid from Earth like a ripe apple from someone else's tree. And that meant answers. And answers lived in only one place, the warship-class freighter Carcazal, flagship of the Corvex Science Division. Meanwhile, aboard the Carcazal, Dr. Krith was regretting everything. "Wait, she's coming here? Why? Why here?" "You authorized the experiment," growled the commander. "It was a baby. I didn't know it came with a lunatic woman powered by vengeance and a frying pan. She killed 7 of our elite." With kitchenware, Krith backed into the corner, wringing his fronds. "You think she'll want to talk?" "No," said the commander. "I think she's bringing dinner." Michelle's ship decloaked in high orbit, directly above the Carcazal. Her message broadcast across all bands. A simple sentence. "I want 5 minutes with the one who ordered the abduction, or I start cooking." The Corvex ship scrambled into high alert. Fighters launched, cannons charged, and then the stealth ship disappeared again, reappeared inside their docking bay. Michelle strolled out, hair wild, eyes sharp, Jacob on one hip, plasma rifle on the other. She walked like someone who'd already decided who dies and who gets turned into garnish. "I'm here for the chef," she said, "the one who put my son on the menu." Dr. Krith fainted immediately. They cuffed her. At least they tried. The cuffs melted 5 seconds later because Michelle had poured hot soup down the control panel. Again. "Really?" she said to the commander, who looked moments away from a cardiac event. "You people should stop underestimating human cookware." We didn't mean any harm," the commander stammered. "It was a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" she echoed, stepping closer. "You stole a child. You strapped me to a table, and then you experimented on my baby." No, we just observed, monitored heart rates, breath patterns, no harm." She stared at him. "Okay, fine." We poked him a little. Michelle set Jacob down in a seat and pulled something from her backpack. A canister. Boiling. "What's that?" the commander asked. "Soup," she smiled. "The special." The commander paled. What's in it?" "You tell me," she said, stepping forward. "It's got a hint of guilt, a dash of regret, and a whole lot of Dr. Krith." The commander screamed. They brought her the Council of Ethical Oversight, not to arrest her, to apologize. "Ms. Alvarez," said the High Mediator of Species Relations, hands trembling, "on behalf of the Tri-Galactic Accord, We are deeply, deeply sorry. Michelle crossed her arms. And? We've passed a bill banning all abductions of Earth children, or Earth anyone, ever. Better. And we are willing to provide reparations, credits, ships, a planet if you want. Michelle considered. Then she picked up Jacob, kissed his forehead and said, I want a kitchen, fully stocked, and immunity. Granted. And I'm keeping the stealth ship. Also granted. She nodded, turned, and walked out. Behind her, the council exhaled in unison. She didn't even hurt anyone this time, whispered the Farron ambassador. She's evolving, another whispered. Oh no. Michelle didn't sleep, not because she couldn't, because she wouldn't. After everything, after the apology, the reparations, the freshly signed Do Not Kidnap Earthlings Act of 3149, Michelle still felt it. The gnawing, the cold weight of something unfinished, because she had flipped their ships, crushed their guards, burned their labs, and yes, turned 2 of their scientists into a bisque so potent it got served at a galactic tavern for 2 whole weeks. But the one who signed the original abduction order, still breathing. His name was Overseer Drex Thal. He wasn't a scientist. He wasn't even military. He was a bureaucrat, a paper pusher with tentacles and too much power. And according to her stolen files, he wasn't on any official registry anymore. His last pinged coordinates? Sector 9E, inside the restricted nebula known as Varn's Shadow, a region so heavily saturated with electromagnetic fog, not even AI scouts went in. Michelle stared at the void ahead on her nav screen. Jacob burbled beside her, chewing on a freeze-dried fruit puck. You ready, kiddo? She whispered. He giggled. Michelle nodded. That's what I thought. She hit the throttle and dove into the dark. Deep inside Varn's Shadow, Overseer Drex Thal sipped his wine. Imported, Terran vintage, 2086 red. Earth had taste, he'd give them that. Mother's still alive, his AI informed him. I assumed, Drex murmured, swirling his glass. Most species break after interrogation. Humans marinate. She has entered the nebula. Estimated arrival, 42 minutes. Prepare the fleet, he said casually, and warm up the broadcast array. Let's talk. Michelle's comms crackled. Then a voice, smug and oily, slithered through. Ms. Alvarez, it said. You're persistent, admirable, predictable. Drex, she said, her voice flat as an iron skillet. You've got 10 minutes to surrender. Or I turn this nebula into a hot pot and throw your entire species in. He laughed. Your theatrics are amusing, but this isn't a research outpost or a wandering lab ship. This is Fortress Ilix. I don't care if it's the Galactic Vatican, she growled. You touched my kid. A pause. Then, we didn't hurt him. You erased his birthday, you freak. That shut him up. Then Michelle added, By the way, I found your chef. There was a clattering sound. Delicious guy, she said. A little chewy, though. Drex cut the line. Fortress Ilix emerged from the fog like a leviathan, spiked, plated, bristling with more turrets than sense. Michelle's ship, a sleek human redesign of the stolen interceptor now affectionately called the Ladle, flickered into full view. Alarms blared inside the fortress. She's not cloaked, a lieutenant shouted. She wants us to see her, Drex whispered. Why? Then Michelle's ship disappeared again and reappeared inside the hangar. This time, she wasn't smiling. She stepped out with a flame-scorched frying pan in one hand and a plasma grenade in the other. Mom's home, she said. Then she pulled the pin. The explosion wasn't huge, but it was targeted. It disabled the blast doors and scrambled the internal gravity. By the time soldiers poured in, Michelle was already gone, one level down, in the main server core. She tossed Jacob a cookie. He was calmly strapped to her back like a baby-sized war god, watching cartoons on a jerry-rigged holo. Michelle reached the server console. Where are you, Drex? She murmured. The system was triple encrypted. She cracked it in 2 minutes. She wasn't just a mum. She was a former Earth Navy combat technician with a degree in computational warfare and 6 years in zero-grav sabotage operations. Her file said, civilian. Her past said, problem. Coordinates locked. Drex's escape shuttle bay. He was running. For someone so smug, Drex ran like a coward with fire ants in his boots. Michelle found him boarding the shuttle, 4 guards at his side. "You know," she said, stepping into the bay, "I was gonna boil you." Drex turned slowly. "You wouldn't." "I made broth out of 2 people who spoke less." He paled. "You're bluffing." She tossed something at his feet. A still smoking helmet. Corvex. Boiled clean. "Soup of the day," she said. "Want a sip?" His guards ran. He screamed. Michelle stepped forward, and for the first time, she didn't strike. She leaned in, cold and calm. "You tell your people this," she said. "Human children are off limits, forever. You even breathe near another Earth kid, I won't cook you." She smiled, sharp and quiet. "I'll feed you to your own son." Then she left. Drex collapsed, sobbing. Later, back on Earth, Michelle sat on her porch. Jacob, older now, played with blocks shaped like spaceships. A courier drone buzzed overhead, dropping a letter. Galactic seal, handwritten. She opened it. "Dear Ms. Alvarez, on behalf of every alien species still in therapy, please accept this commemorative plaque. To the human mother who made soup a weapon, also included 800,000 galactic credits and a cookbook." Michelle grinned. She poured herself a drink and muttered, "Damn right I did." The plaque now hung in Michelle's garage, right above the rack of plasma-scorched kitchen utensils and makeshift weapon mods. Next to Jacob's drawing, stick figures, one labeled Mom holding a flaming spoon, the other labeled Bad Guy melting in a pot. It wasn't what Michelle had ever imagined her garage would look like, but then again, nothing about the last year had been normal. She was back on Earth. But Earth wasn't the same either, because after her little intergalactic culinary incident, 2 things had happened. The Galactic Council quietly renamed Earth from Death World Classification Level 3 to Do Not Engage Under Any Circumstance, seriously. The phrase souped entered galactic slang, as in, touch that human kid and you'll get souped. And as for Michelle, she was now part of every alien military's training slides under case study, "Never underestimate human mothers." But peace never lasts long. It began with a knock. Well, a knock and a low hum and a quantum rift portal opening behind her recycling bins. Michelle didn't flinch. She sipped her iced tea. A tall, lime-green being with elongated limbs stepped out, holding what looked like a clipboard and an apology. "Ms. Alvarez," he began, "my name is Envoy Kraltek. I represent the hfystory Dominion. We would like to contract your services." Michelle raised an eyebrow. "I don't do catering." No, nothing like that. We want defense consultancy." She sipped again. He fidgeted. "We're being threatened by a rogue pirate alliance, one that is borrowing tactics from your campaign, including, boiling." Michelle narrowed her eyes. "Are they using kids?" "No, but they, call themselves the Brothborn." She choked on her tea. "The what now?" "The Brothborn," he repeated meekly. "They've made boiling alien commanders into a religious ritual. Their flagship is called the Stock Pot. Their war chant is literally, 'Stir it up.'" Michelle blinked. "I inspired a soup cult." He nodded. She looked off into the distance. "My mother always said I'd start something one day." Michelle didn't want to go back. She had peace now. Jacob had playdates. She was finally learning how to make sourdough. But then again, she also had a pirate soup cult rampaging in her name. And frankly, no one was going to ruin her legacy but her. So she suited up, repaired the ladle, and packed 3 pots, 5 pans, 1 apron stitched with world's most dangerous mum and her son's drawing for luck. This time, she wasn't going to make soup. She was going to end a recipe war. The Brothborn weren't amateurs. They had stolen tech, heavy dreadnoughts, and a flair for the dramatic. Their leader, a being named Scav Drull, former sanitation engineer turned warlord chef, and self-proclaimed High Simmerer of the Flame. He greeted Michelle with open arms on a neutral asteroid base carved into the shape of a giant ladle. "I have waited to meet you, Mother Michelle," he said, kneeling. "Yeah, Stand up, big guy. You've got pepper flakes on your boots. You are our inspiration, the original boiler. Boiler, she said. You cooked for justice. We cook for chaos. I'm a mum, not a myth. Too late, he said with reverence. You are legend. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she slapped him with a spatula. Hard. The guards gasped. Listen, Scav, she said calmly. You're not me. You're a cosplay convention with cannons. You don't cook your enemies because they deserve it. You cook them because you think it's cool. He rubbed his jaw. It is cool. It's not justice. He tilted his head. Then teach us. Michelle blinked. Wait. What? Teach us the path, the mother's flame, the balance between rage and reason. I don't have a doctrine, she muttered. You have a cookbook. She looked at the handwritten pages Jacob had scribbled notes on. The margins said things like, more salt, less yelling, and don't blow up ships unless they say mean things. You're serious? Scav bowed again. We await your recipes. 2 weeks later, the brothborn had transformed. The giant ladle-shaped base was now a culinary academy. Michelle stood in a war kitchen, shouting over boiling vats. Cut diagonally. If your onions are uneven, how do you expect to balance a siege? Yes, Mother Michelle. Rule 1. Never serve revenge cold. Heat it, sear it, respect it. Yes, chef. Jacob walked by in a child-sized tactical apron, critiquing spice levels. And across the galaxy, a new phrase was born. Make broth, not war. Back on Earth, Michelle finally retired. For real this time. She declined every offer. Galactic TV series, cookbook empire, even a line of kitchen-themed tactical drones. She just wanted to be with her son. But deep in the stars, they still whispered her name. Not with fear, but with respect. Because when peace fails, when treaties crack, and when the unthinkable happens again, every species in the galaxy knows exactly what phrase to say. Whatever you do, don't touch a human child. Peace, like soup, simmers best when you watch the pot. Michelle Alvarez thought she was done watching pots. She'd taught a cult to cook, buried warlords in flavor profiles, and turned an interstellar kitchen into a treaty-writing think tank. But the universe has a way of relighting burners. It started innocently. A knock on her Earthside kitchen window. Not a rift this time. Not a warp beacon. Just a knock. She opened it to find a child, not human. Small, grey-skinned, 3 eyes, wearing a patched uniform. His lower lip trembled. They took my sister. Michelle blinked. He held up a hand-scrawled note, written in broken Terran. Only Soup Lady can help. Please. Michelle took a long breath, put down her wooden spoon, turned off the stove, then looked over at Jacob, now 10, lounging on the couch with a tactical cookbook in his lap. He didn't even look up. You're going, aren't you? Yeah, she said softly. He sighed. Can I come this time? She raised an eyebrow. Homework done? He grinned. Already packed my apron. The kidnappers weren't your average raiders. They were old, ancient, the Vorkeen, a species so far off the grid they didn't even register in council records. They trafficked in genetic anomalies. They believed children were better test subjects, less memory, easier conditioning. They believed humans were extinct. Bad luck for them. They'd snatched the wrong species. Again. Michelle infiltrated the Vorkeen's research asteroid like she was doing a surprise health inspection. Jacob stayed at the ship, monitoring heat signatures and keeping score on how many walls she punched through. 5. The labs were cold, sterile, metal-heavy, and in the central chamber, rows of cages, alien children, scared, silent, until they saw her. And even if they didn't know her name, they knew something had changed, because behind her, dragging across the floor, was the ladle. Michelle stormed in. A Vorkeen scientist turned, startled. Who are you? She smiled, calm, cold, collected. Mother. They opened fire. Michelle ducked, deflected with a saucepan, and hurled a pressure valve into a control panel. Flames erupted, gas ignited. The room turned into a steam-blasted nightmare. She moved like boiling water, fluid, fast, furious. One Vorkeen reached for the child nearest him. She snapped his wrist with a rolling pin. "You don't touch kids," she growled, grabbing the key codes. One by one, she unlocked the cages. The children clung to her. "What's your name?" one asked in a whisper. "Michelle," she replied, "but you can call me Mom." By the time the Vorkeen commander arrived, it was too late. The children were free, the labs were ablaze, and Michelle stood in the center, scorched apron flapping, surrounded by kitchen utensils stuck into consoles and security droids stuffed into soup vats. He tried to bargain. He offered data, money, immunity. She offered a taste. One final pot simmered beside her, unlabeled, mysterious. She ladled it into a metal cup and handed it to him. He sniffed, then paled. "Is this every secret you thought you'd keep?" she said softly. He dropped it, tried to run, didn't make it past the spice trap. Back on Earth, weeks later, Jacob sat on a hill, watching the stars. His mother sat beside him, sipping tea. "You think it's over?" he asked. "No," she said, "but I think they'll think twice." "Will I be like you someday?" She smiled. "Number, you'll be better." He grinned. "I'm already better at seasoning." She elbowed him. They sat in silence for a while. Then Jacob leaned over. "Mom?" "Yeah?" "I kept a bit of that soup. For protection." She paused, then laughed, loud and full. "That's my boy." Somewhere across the stars, on a planet light years away, a campfire burned. Around it, a group of alien children sat, free now, reunited. They whispered legends, not of warriors or gods, but of a woman with an apron, of a wooden spoon that shattered chains, and a phrase etched into the galaxy's fear: "Mess with humans, and you'll be dinner."